Hello and welcome to another Codex Drukhari unit by unit video here on SkaredCast. The Razorwing Jetfighter, terror of the skies of the Dark City. Let's dive right in.
The Dark Kin.
Hello and welcome to another unit by unit video here on SkaredCast. I am Skari, your grateful host, and today we're looking at the next unit in the Drukhari Codex. We've been doing a series with every single unit in the Codex, so if you have missed out, make sure you check the link down below for the previous one and you can work your way back, or look at the playlist on the main channel. Before we start, a huge shout out to all the Patreons to the channel. Thank you so much for your support. You guys make me creating content possible. So if you have a question, suggestion, leave a comment or send me a message. And if you'd like to join the Patreon page, check the link down below and become a part of the Denizen community. So let's begin with the Drukhari book. If this is the first time you're tuning into one of these videos, I talk about the lore of a specific unit, and then we go into the rules and how it works in game. I am reading out of the Drukhari book, so if you have any questions, you can get your own book and read along, etc., etc., etc. So, the Razorwing Jetfighter is a very iconic, fast-moving flyer for the Drukhari Codex. They are equipped with a lot of guns, a lot of weapons, and they really act as like a fast-moving strike unit. I use them quite often, and in my tournament-winning lists, I've usually run 1 or 2 Razorwing Jetfighters. They allow me to have a lot of tactical flexibility and threaten stuff very far in the opponent's deployment zone, so it's nice to have a unit that has that versatility that you can really put pressure on. It also forces the opponent to bubble wrap things like characters, because you can snipe them out with the Razorwing Jetfighters. So let's dive in. Let's look at what makes the Razorwing Jetfighter tick. In the zone. Razorwing Jetfighters. Through the vortex-torn mists of each Drukhari raid come the twin contrails of Razorwing Jetfighters. Aircraft so fast that their fusillades of missile fire hit home at the instant the air is rent by the flyer's thunderous sonic boom. Even the most conceited Archon knows that the armored vehicles of the lesser races, though thuggish and unsubtle, are still potentially dangerous. A fleet of raiders that is intercepted by well-directed artillery fire can often find itself repelled with unacceptable losses. To ensure that the foe cannot call upon such support, the Drukhari employ Razorwing Jetfighters to sow destruction and panic in the midst of their foe. For while the pilots of Razorwing Jetfighters are capable of running aerial interception, they are specialists in the wholesale slaughter of ground targets. There are few enemies in real space or beyond who are fast enough to outpace these aggressive and consummately skilled fighter craft. Each of their pilots was once an elite member of the Reaver jetbike gangs of Comora, and to them, fighting at breakneck speed is second nature. They are veterans of the Dark City's death races. They have earned, through countless acts of spectacular violence, enough wealth to escape the arenas forever, and now seek to maim and destroy everything they can find without risking their own skins. Razorwing Jetfighters boast an array of diabolically effective missiles. When a squadron of Razorwing Jetfighters looses a salvo, it often appears as if the ground is being raked by monstrous invisible talons. Most surgically efficient of all is the dreaded Scythe missile. Remotely steered by the fighter's pilot into the thick of the foe, the secret to their terrifying reputation is in their warheads when detonated. They emit non-conventional blast, but one that is constrained to a specific plane by complex inbuilt power shields. A great horizontal sheet of force explodes outward at a certain height, decapitating or even cutting in half everyone caught in the blast zone. Such a clinical multiple kill is very satisfying to the Jetfighter's pilot, for all Drukhari appreciate a well-administered death. Necro Toxin missiles have a similarly devastating effect against hordes of lightly armored enemies. Perhaps the most morbidly inventive payload is that of the Shatter missile. This warhead actually houses two separate detonation cores. The first of these drains the detonation zone of all thermal energy, transforming those caught in the blast to brittle statues. The second core then sends out a shockwave of percussive force that shatters its frozen victims into 1,000 pieces. Along with its missiles, each Razorwing Jetfighter also bears an array of other armaments that can reap the souls from its prey, including a pair of cannons mounted on the wings. Those pilots who take sadistic glee in mowing through ranks of infantry tend to favor disintegrated cannons. Those highly sophisticated guns fire particles of unstable matter harnessed from stolen suns to swiftly atomize even heavily armored targets. All of these craft bear nose-mounted twin splinter rifles, which afford the perfect vantage point for the pilot to see their victims torn to shreds. In silhouette, the Razorwing Jetfighter appears like a jagged, double-edged blade. Their crescent wing and sword-shaped curves convey their lethal power. So, Razorwing Jetfighters are a supersonic jet that is festooned with missiles and other weapons. Their main priority is to go in and knock out heavily armored targets, to essentially sow confusion and destruction in the enemy ranks, to allow the rest of the Drukhari army to get into position or to avoid excessive casualties. I like Razorwing Jetfighters because in-game they're a very versatile choice. Now, using flyers can be interesting because they have a minimum movement that they have to use when playing in a Warhammer 40,000 8th edition game. So, playing against something like a horde of infantry and stuff can be risky due to game mechanics. There's also the game rule of boots on the ground. So, if the enemy can kill everything you have on the ground, any flyer choices that you have left don't count, and therefore you could be tabled if you spend too many points on flyers and not enough points on, quote, boots on the ground. So let's take a look at the unit itself and how it ties in to your Drukhari strategy as an Archon, Succubus, or Homunculus. If you have any questions in specific, leave a comment down below. And if you really want to ask me some questions or want to leave a comment on what your favorite loadout is, please let me know as well. I'm always curious to see what works for you. What is working for you in-game? Let me know. So the Razorwing Jetfighter has an 8 power level. Although its 8 power level doesn't really justify its cost. Its cost is only 135 points with disintegrator cannons, which is not that bad. The Razorwing Jetfighter has movement of asterisk. So, since it has 10 wounds, it does suffer degenerating profile. So, it goes from movement minimum of 20 in every single case to a maximum that changes. From 6 to 10 wounds, it's 72 inches. From 3 to 5 is 48 inches. And from 1 to 2, it's 32 inches. Its weapon skill is always 6. Its ballistic skill also changes based on its wounds. So 6 to 10 is a ballistic skill of 3. 3 to 5, ballistic skill of 4. And 1 to 2, ballistic skill of 5+. Its strength and toughness is 6. It has 10 wounds. Has an attack characteristic that goes from 3 to D3 to 1 based on wounds. Its leadership is 7, and its save is 4+. As you can tell, the theme has been decent in toughness, not as tough as, say, a Rhino, decent armor, but it makes up for that in crazy firepower. So a Razorwing Jetfighter is a single model, equipped with 2 disintegrator cannons, a twin splinter rifle, and Razorwing missiles. The Disintegrator Cannon is potentially my favorite Drukhari long-range weapon because it deals with everything efficiently. It's a 36-inch, Assault 3, Strength 5, minus 3, 2 damage weapon. So having two of them has 6 shots, they hit on 3s, Strength 5, minus 3 AP, 2 damage. Very efficient at taking light armored tanks out, heavy armored infantry, Primaris Marines, regular infantry. It's just an all-round great weapon. It's also equipped with a twin splinter rifle. If we look at the Venom in the link down below, it's a similar weapon. A rapid fire 2, a 24-inch range, AP 1, AP 0, damage 1, poison weapon, so it wounds all infantry and anything that's not a vehicle on a 4+, regardless of toughness. Last but not least, it has the Razorwing missiles. Now this is what differentiates mostly Razorwing from a Ravager. The Ravager is festooned with, say, disintegrator cannons or lances. This guy also has disintegrator cannons, as we can see, or lances, which we'll take a look in a second. However, the Razorwing missiles make it a very versatile choice, especially if you're going to a tournament, because you can tailor the missile to the target that you're firing. This is not to be underestimated. So there are 3 different missiles that you can choose. The first is so basically when you attack with the weapon, you choose one of the profiles. Scythe missile is a 48-inch, Assault D6, Strength 6, no AP, so AP 0, 2 damage missile. D6 shots, Strength 6, that do 2 damage. Very useful against stuff that's either not in cover, that has multiple wounds, something that doesn't necessarily have the best armor save or invulnerable save that you want to try and get some wounds on, because every wound that goes through is 2. Not too shabby. The second one is the Necro Toxin missile. This is probably my favorite one, and the biggest reason is because it's Assault 3D3, which makes it the most efficient in terms of volume of firepower. It's 3D3 shots, which means you have a minimum of 3, you have a maximum of 9 shots. On average, you'll be rolling around 6 or so, or 7. So I really like this because you have a lot more shots with it. With a D6 weapon, you either roll 1 or you roll 6. With 3D3s, the variance is a lot better for you, so you're not going to be stuck with just one missile shot and then having to burn a command point or something for it. It is Strength Asterisk, it is AP 0, and has 1 damage. So it doesn't look like much, but it is a poison weapon that gets a +2 to wound rolls unless targeting a vehicle, which means it wounds on 2+ against anything that's not a tank. If you want to cause volume of dice and force your opponent to roll lots of saves, that weapon is excellent. The Shatter field missile is probably the one you're going to be shooting mostly against vehicles or tougher targets. It's a 48-inch Assault D6, so it has the D6 profile. It's Strength 7, minus 1 AP and 1 damage. So minus 1 AP and Strength 7 allows it to wound things a lot easily. However, it can reroll failed wound rolls for this weapon. So, if you're going against a tank or against a monstrous creature, you can reroll those wounds, making the hits a lot more efficient to wound, and then if it wounds, it does minus 1 AP, which allows you to more likely do damage, which is very useful. So those are my 2 favorites, the Necrotoxin and the Shatterfield missile, depending on what I'm shooting at. The Scythe missile, I'll shoot every once in a while if I really need to try and get 1-2 damage shot through a save or something like that. So what options do we have? We have the option to replace both disintegrator cannons with Dark Lances. A Dark Lance is a 36-inch range, heavy 1, strength 8, minus 4 AP, damage D6 weapon. That changes from heavy to assault when equipped on a vehicle. So this is like a las cannon, rocket launcher, does D6 damage. So if you want to equip it for anti-tank purposes almost exclusively, the Dark Lance is a good choice. You can also replace the twin rifle with a splinter cannon. The twin rifle is rapid fire 2 at 24. The splinter cannon is rapid fire 3 at 36. So within 18 inches, you're getting 6 shots, which means you really increase the volume of firepower that you can get from a Razorwing against non-vehicle targets. Every once in a while I do it. If you have extra points, I recommend it. If not, it's not something that I'm really too fussed about. Now it does have a few abilities. The first is supersonic. So when it moves, it first pivots on the spot. So you have your Razorwing Jetfighter. It can pivot up to 90 degrees on the spot, and then it has to move in that direction, a minimum distance up to its maximum distance. If you advance this model, you increase its move characteristic by 20 until the end of the phase. So all of a sudden it goes from, so when you advance it, it can go up to 92 inches, it can go up to 68 inches, or it can go up to 52 inches. So if you really need to get somewhere really fast, you need to advance it, then go right ahead. But you're rarely going to use this unless you're playing an apocalypse game on a giant table. It does have a Night Shield, which is common to all Drukhari vehicles, which is a 5-up invulnerable save against ranged weapons, which means last cannons, things that do a lot of AP, have to get through that invulnerable save in order to do damage. It does have the hard to hit rule, which is very common to flyers in the flyer slot, -1 to hit, that target the model in the shooting phase. It is airborne, so it cannot make charge moves, can only be charged by units that can fly, and can only attack or be attacked in the fight phase by units that can fly. It also has the crash and burn, so if it goes to 0 wounds, roll a d6. Everybody within 6 inches on a 6 takes d3 mortal wounds. So it can explode and do some damage. Other than that, it has Eldari, Drukhari, and can either be a Cabal or a Witch Cult heavy support flyer choice. So you can take it as Witch Cult, because they are Reavers after all, or you can take it as a Cabal choice. That depends on what you want. Taking it as a Cabal, you can get Black Heart to give them Feel No Pain. You can make them ignore cover or get +1 to hit against flyers if you're taking Flayed Skull, or reroll 1s to wound with the poison weapons, like the Splinter Cannon with Poison Tongue. You can also give it extra range with its guns if you go for Obsidian Rose, or with Witch Cult, you can go for Advance and Charge, which wouldn't be really useful. You can go for Ignore Morale and +1 Strength, which isn't really useful, and you can also go for Cult of Strife, which allows it to shoot twice if it kills something. Pretty cool using a stratagem. That one is probably my favorite if you're running it as a Witch Cult. It has a vehicle, fly, and it's a Razorwing Jetfighter. So let me know what you think in the comments down below if you have any questions or concerns about the Razorwing Jetfighter. Other than that, a huge shout out to all the patrons of the channel. Thanks a lot to your support. I get to create content, and if you'd like to know more, check the link in the description. I'm Skari, your grateful host, signing off until the next video. Skari out.